The air hung heavy and still, as if the very atmosphere was weighed down by the oppressive heat. The dry season had arrived, bringing with it a sense of foreboding and unease. The sun beat down relentlessly, a blazing orb in a cloudless sky. Its rays scorched the earth, turning the once fertile soil into a cracked and barren wasteland. It was the dry season, the time of hardship. The land, which had once been a vibrant tapestry of life, was now a desolate expanse of dust and despair. The once lush land was now parched and brown. Rivers and streams that had once flowed freely were reduced to mere trickles, if they existed at all. Every creature, big or small, felt the grip of thirst and hunger. The dry season spared no one, and the struggle for survival became a daily battle. This was especially true for the Grey Shadow Pack, a group of wolves struggling for survival. Their once abundant territory was now a harsh and unforgiving place. Their once familiar hunting grounds were barren. The prey they relied on had vanished, leaving the wolves to fend for themselves in an increasingly hostile environment. Their usual prey had long since migrated, seeking respite from the harsh conditions. The plains, once teeming with life, were now eerily silent. The Grey Shadow Pack was not alone in their struggle. Across the savannah, countless other animals faced the same dire circumstances. The dry season affected every living being, turning the fight for survival into a desperate competition. Resources were scarce, and every drop of water, every morsel of food became a precious commodity. This struggle was most evident in the competition for food and water. Animals that once coexisted peacefully now found themselves at odds, driven by the primal need to survive. The dwindling resources fueled an undercurrent of tension, a silent war waged in the heart of the savannah. Every encounter was fraught with the potential for conflict. Every growl, every paw print spoke of the harsh reality. The dry season was a time of survival, where only the strongest and most resilient would endure. It was kill or be killed. In this unforgiving landscape, the rules of nature were laid bare, and the struggle for life continued with unrelenting intensity. At the helm of the Grey Shadow Pack was Alpha, a magnificent male with fur the color of storm clouds. His presence was commanding, a figure of strength and resilience that the pack had come to rely on. Alpha's fur, a striking storm gray, seemed to shimmer under the dappled sunlight filtering through the forest canopy, making him an unmistakable leader among his kin. His eyes, a piercing amber, reflected both wisdom and the weight of responsibility. These eyes had seen many seasons, each one bringing its own set of challenges and triumphs. They were eyes that had witnessed the cycle of life and death, the harsh realities of survival in the wild. Alpha was a seasoned leader, having successfully guided his pack through previous dry seasons. His leadership was marked by a blend of courage and caution, always putting the pack's needs above his own. He had earned their trust through countless acts of bravery and wisdom, navigating them through the toughest of times. But this year was different. The scarcity was more severe, the competition fiercer. The land, once teeming with life, now lay barren and unforgiving. Water sources had dried up, and prey had become elusive, pushing the pack to the brink of desperation. Alpha could sense the growing unease within his pack. The younger wolves, full of energy and impatience, were beginning to show signs of restlessness. Their usual playful demeanor had given way to anxiety and frustration, a stark contrast to the calm they once knew. The younger wolves, restless and hungry, looked to him for guidance. They had never faced such dire circumstances before, and their eyes, filled with a mix of hope and fear, were constantly on Alpha, waiting for his next move. The older ones, scarred from previous battles, bore the grim acceptance of their situation. They had seen hard times before, but this was different. Their scars were not just physical but also emotional, each one telling a story of survival and loss. Alpha knew he had to act decisively. The weight of his pack's survival rested heavily on his shoulders. He could not afford to hesitate or show weakness. Every decision he made now would determine their fate. He had to lead his pack through this crisis, to find a way to survive against the odds. The journey ahead was fraught with danger, but Alpha's resolve was unshakable. He knew that together, they could overcome any obstacle. His every instinct told him that the time for caution was over. The pack needed bold action, and they needed it now. Alpha's senses were heightened, every fiber of his being ready to face the challenges ahead. The time for boldness had arrived. With a determined glint in his amber eyes, Alpha prepared to lead his pack into the unknown, ready to face whatever lay ahead with unwavering courage and strength. The Grey Shadow Pack's territory was increasingly encroached upon by rivals, each driven by the same desperate hunger. Hyenas, with their bone-crushing jaws and chilling laughter, became bolder. Their packs, larger and more aggressive, were a constant threat. The lions, too, were a force to be reckoned with. Their roars echoed across the savannah, a terrifying reminder of their dominance. These predators, accustomed to easy pickings, were not used to sharing. They guarded their kills jealously, leaving scraps that were hardly enough to sustain the Grey Shadow Pack. The wolves were forced to scavenge, to take what they could, when they could. Each meal, won through cunning and stealth, was a victory against the odds. As the dry season wore on, tensions within the Grey Shadow Pack began to rise. The relentless heat and scarcity of resources took a toll on every member of the pack. The once lush and bountiful territory had turned into a harsh and unforgiving environment, testing the resilience of even the strongest wolves. The lack of food and water made tempers flare. Wolves that once shared their meals and protected each other now found themselves competing for the smallest scraps. The pack's unity, which had been their greatest strength, was now under threat. The once unbreakable bonds of loyalty were tested. Growls and snarls became more frequent as disputes over territory and resources escalated. The pack's harmony was fraying at the edges, and the sense of camaraderie was slowly being replaced by suspicion and rivalry. Some wolves, led by a young, ambitious male named Fang, grew restless. Fang, with his sharp instincts and unyielding determination, saw the current situation as an opportunity to challenge the status quo. He believed that the pack needed a new direction, a more aggressive approach to survival. They questioned Alpha's leadership, urging him to take more risks, to challenge the hyenas and lions head-on. Fang and his followers argued that the pack could no longer afford to be passive. They believed that only by asserting their dominance could they secure the resources they desperately needed. Alpha, however, knew that brute force was not the answer. With years of experience and countless battles behind him, he understood the complexities of their situation. He knew that a direct confrontation could lead to devastating losses for the pack. He had seen countless battles in his lifetime. Each scar on his body was a testament to the harsh lessons learned through blood and pain. Alpha's wisdom was hard-earned, and he was determined to guide his pack through this crisis with caution and strategy. He knew the strength of their rivals. The hyenas and lions were formidable adversaries, each with their own territories and resources. A reckless attack could provoke a war that the Grey Shadow Pack was not prepared to fight. He understood the importance of patience, of choosing their battles wisely. Alpha believed that survival depended on strategic planning and waiting for the right moment to strike. He counseled his pack to conserve their energy and remain vigilant. He counseled caution, urging his pack to conserve their energy, to wait for an opportunity. Alpha's approach was one of calculated risk, knowing that a single misstep could spell disaster for the entire pack. But Fang's discontent continued to simmer, threatening to divide the pack. The young wolf's defiance was a growing concern, and the tension within the pack was palpable. The Grey Shadow Pack stood at a crossroads with their future hanging in the balance. Adding to their woes was the constant pressure from a rival wolf pack, the Blood Moon Pack. Led by a ruthless alpha known as Scarface, this pack was known for its aggression and brutality. They were encroaching further onto the Grey Shadow Pack's territory, stealing their already scarce prey, and leaving their scent as a warning. Alpha knew that a confrontation with Scarface was inevitable. The Blood Moon Pack was a constant threat, a shadow looming over their every move. He needed to find a way to protect his pack, to secure their survival, even if it meant risking everything. The dry season was pushing them all to the brink, and soon, a bloody showdown would determine who ruled the savannah. The situation for the Grey Shadow Pack grew more desperate with each passing day. The waterholes they relied on had dried up. The few remaining prey animals were weak and scarce. The wolves were growing thinner, their ribs visible beneath their once thick fur. Alpha could see the toll the dry season was taking on his pack. Their energy was depleted, their spirits were low. Even the most optimistic among them struggled to hold on to hope. Alpha knew he had to make a decision, and soon. The survival of his pack depended on it. He had to find a way to lead them out of this crisis, even if it meant facing unimaginable danger. One evening, as the sun began its descent, casting long shadows across the savannah, a scout returned to the pack with news. He had caught a scent, faint but unmistakable. It was the scent of water. Not the stagnant puddles they had been forced to drink from, but the fresh, flowing water of a hidden spring. The news spread through the pack like wildfire. Hope, which had dwindled to a flicker, rekindled in their hearts. Alpha listened intently to the scout's report, analyzing every detail. The spring, according to the scout, was located in a narrow gorge, a treacherous place known to be inhabited by hyenas. It was a risky proposition, but potentially their only salvation. Alpha, driven by the need to protect his pack, devised a daring plan. He would use the cover of night to lead the Blood Moon pack away from the gorge, creating a window of opportunity for his pack to reach the spring. It was a risky gambit, one that required perfect timing and a great deal of luck. Under the cloak of darkness, the Grey Shadow pack set out, their movements stealthy and silent. Alpha, at the front, led them towards the Blood Moon pack's territory, his senses alert for any sign of danger. The fate of his pack rested on his shoulders. He knew that failure was not an option. The sounds of the ensuing battle echoed across the savannah, a symphony of growls, snarls, and howls. The Grey Shadow pack, united in their desperation, fought with a ferocity born of hunger and the will to survive. Alpha, true to his name, led the charge, his courage inspiring his pack. The outcome of the battle, shrouded in the dust and chaos, would determine the fate of the Grey Shadow pack. Would they emerge victorious, securing their legacy in a land ravaged by drought? Or would they succumb to the harsh realities of nature, their story ending in tragedy? Only time would tell. But one thing was certain, the dry season had tested their limits, pushing them to the brink of survival.